One Capetonian from Bantry Bay sent me a receipt showing they are now paying almost 18,500 rands or over $1,000 per month just in rates and taxes alone for a 55 square meter flat. 55 square meters, that's about the size of my bedroom, which is also almost 3 times more than they did in 2021. The city's rates and levies in sought-after areas are now between 2 and 4 times higher than major international cities like London, Berlin and New York. This is because in Cape Town, residents are being punished by the municipal government for investing in the city's best real estate, with rates and municipal taxes skyrocketing for those property whose values increased. But property owners in the city are now being charged based on distorted valuations of properties that in many neighborhoods are more than double the average prices that these same properties actually go for on the open market when sold. Of course, these numbers are more pronounced in the highest demand areas like Bantry Bay or Bishop's Court, but levies on highly inflated municipal evaluations of property hit middle-class areas such as Durbanville almost equally as hard. Lower middle-class households in Cape Town are now spending up to 17% of their total income on municipal rates, and upper middle-class families are paying nearly 20% more than their counterparts in Pretoria, despite their average income for middle-class jobs being significantly lower in Cape Town than in Pretoria for the exact same job. In fact, according to Glassdoor, a website that tracks average salaries, the average salary for an engineer with 25 years of experience in Pretoria is 1.45 million rands, compared to only 1.05 million in Cape Town. A nearly 30% difference. The difference is even more pronounced for doctors, with industry standards for locum work being 1,300 rands per hour in Pretoria for a GP compared to just 900 rands in Cape Town. Many such middle-class Cape Town families have already seen their bills skyrocket. But if the City of Cape Town's government has its way, Capetonians will be paying even more in the years to come very soon. You see, in the City of Cape Town's 2025-2026 budget year, which came into effect on the 1st of July 25, an 8% average property rate increase for middle-class families all over the city was announced, along with fixed electricity charges by a whole 27% more. For a lower middle class family in Goodwood or Parow, this means roughly 3,500 rands per month more, or 4,500 annually. In wealthier upper middle class suburbs like Rondebosch, increases have been as much as 630 rands per month, and driving all of these hikes isn't improved services for the ratepayers in these areas, but the staggering cost of Cape Town's informal settlements growing by the day. Already more than half of the city's levy increases are swallowed up by free services, free policing and free infrastructure being built for the so-called lower income population. The reason for these increases are evident for all to see. Cape Town's Mayor, Jordan Hill-Lewis, has announced that the city will be spending no less than 40 billion rands, or just over $2.5 billion US, on infrastructure development and maintenance for the so-called lower income areas over the next 3 years, with more than 70% of that to be spent on low-income and informal settlements that do not pay any property taxes. Of the 14 billion allocated for next year's budget, 9 billion will be spent therefore in townships such as Khayelitsha, Gugulethu and Nyanga, which alone still more than the entire infrastructure budget of the Johannesburg Metro as a whole. In Cape Town, property owners are taxed based on the full market value as determined by the municipality of their home under what is known as the ad valorem system. The phrase ad valorem is Latin for according to value and denotes a system in which rates are calculated as a percentage of a property's assessed market value rather than its size or, more importantly, its actual usage of municipal services. In other words, not the cost of the municipal services themselves to be provided to this home, but rather the cost of the property's value determining the rates and taxes, regardless of what the services actually cost to the municipality. The core problem with this model is that it actually penalizes any good investments by taxing people more as the value of their property increases, which is basically the same thing as unrealized capital gains taxes. You see, capital gains taxes would be what you pay if you bought, let's say, stocks, for example. The stocks increased by 100% and you sold them. You have to pay taxes on those capital gains. But for your property, if it increases in value, you don't need to sell it. The city start taxing you on that increase in value via your rates. Furthermore, it also punishes people for making improvements on their property, as this inevitably also triggers increases in municipal taxes and levies. The other decisive weakness of this model is that property valuations are inherently subjective and fluctuate with market cycles. Take the Cape Town suburb of Bishop's Court, for example. Over the past few years, the average assessed market value of properties in this neighborhood has increased from around 15 million or just under $1 million to 25 million or just over $1.5 million. Yet, over the same period, the actual price of home sales on the free market are just under 10 million rands or 50% less or around $700,000. With virtually no increase over the same 4-year period. This means that while the actual free market value of the properties in Bishop's Court has actually remained virtually unchanged over the past 4 years, even as the valuations of these properties have increased by 67%. One of our members at the Willem Petsche Group sent a receipt of a municipal bill of 18,440 rands, or just over $1,000 per month in rates and taxes alone, that they are now paying for a 55 square meter flat on the seaboard in Cape Town, which is more than 3 times what they had paid just 5 years ago. The Cape Town municipality overvalues by massive margins, especially in wealthier suburbs like Bishop's Court, but also in more middle income areas, such as Durbanville, for example. This is, of course, to increase the property taxes, with the result being that Cape Townians are seeing their municipal rates radically increase, even though the owners have not gained any real or liquid value. It's only the paper value that rises, and even this paper value cannot be realized when the property is sold, as we have seen from the recent sales prices, not any actual cash value. And because Cape Town has the highest property values in the country, on paper at least, especially according to the municipality, when calculating property taxes per square meter, middle-class Cape Townians now pay far more than middle-class families elsewhere in the country. And so, while Cape Town's rates and tariffs are still slightly lower when you calculate it based on the price of the property than cities such as Pretoria, the fact that these rates and levies are calculated proportionally according to municipal value in terms of this property value means that upper middle class families in Cape Town are now paying significantly more in municipal rates and taxes than their peers in any other South African city. In fact, following last year's drastic rate increases in the mother city, upper middle class families in Cape Town are now paying almost 20% more than their peers in Pretoria. When it comes to lower middle class families in Cape Town, they are now spending around 17% of their entire household income on rates and taxes. But here's where it gets so much worse. When compared to other major cities internationally, Cape Town fares so much worse. In Cape Town, the rates and taxes for a $2.5 million apartment, according to international standards, are around 2 to 4 times more than in wealthy international hubs such as London, Berlin, New York, and even Hong Kong and Tokyo, which is known for how extremely expensive these cities are. And the cool reason for this is that, for example, if we look at a city like New York, it operates under a classified assessment regime that substantially reduces the effective tax burden relative to actual property values. Therefore, despite its astronomical property prices, New York City taxes only a fraction of market value through a classified assessment structure. How this works is that instead of exposing homeowners directly to a full market valuation swing, the system applies assessment ratios, caps, and classification rules that buffer tax liabilities from rapid asset price inflation. This drastically reduces the valuation distortions unrelated to service delivery costs and means that property owners get charged for the actual cost of municipal services rather than merely paying more because they made a good investment. New York City's model illustrates how a valuation-based system can be structurally stabilized, but an even more radical and better alternative is the Polish system, found in a city like Warsaw, where property taxation is completely area-based, not value-based. You see, under this system, tax liability is determined by physical characteristics such as the square meters of the land and the amount of building space that you own. The Polish area-based tax system is definitely the best system for eliminating any valuation disputes, market cycle distortions, and inflation-driven tax escalation, while simultaneously ensuring transparency, stability, fairness, justness, and immunity to any asset bubbles. But of course, even the ad valorem system, with all of its weaknesses and obvious shortcomings, wouldn't have had such a detrimental effect if the city had an homogeneous population. But in the context of a city like Cape Town, with its immense socio-economic and ethnic diversity, linking municipal revenue extraction directly to property valuations rather than to the actual cost of services rendered steadily transforms private asset appreciation into an ever-expanding financial liability for an already strained middle class. In other words, as Margaret Thatcher said, the problem with socialism is that one day you inevitably run out of other people's money to spend, and Cape Town, with its social housing, is very close to that point where they are running out of the middle class's money to spend. The reality is that property ownership in Cape Town is increasingly becoming more and more of a burden or a financial liability on middle-class families every single year and less of an asset. Homeowners are effectively penalized for market dynamics entirely outside of their control, and on top of this, they are being forced to fund their own demographic displacement by paying billions and billions annually for services that the city now delivers only to illegal settlements of hundreds of thousands of economic migrants from everywhere from the Eastern Cape to Lagos in Nigeria, indeed, and increasingly also from across the entire African continent. And ultimately, the blame for this socio-economic catastrophe that is now crippling the mother city should fall squarely on the shoulders of the city government being led by Jordan Hill-Lewis. In a recent video, we did a full breakdown of how Hill-Lewis is making Cape Town's ratepayers fund the destruction of the beloved city. Check out the full report if you are in time for a very long video appearing on your screen right now. It is so information dense, you will have a very informative time watching that video if you've got half an hour's time. And do consider supporting our work by becoming a paid member of the Willem Petscher Group. Only with you investing in us can we continue make videos such as these. Thank you, goodbye, and God bless.